Hi everyone and welcome to the Dodo Bird Nerd. It's me, the Dodo Bird Nerd, and today's Magic the Gathering video, I'm going to be doing the 5th part of my Magic the Gathering Taxonomy series, this time going over reptiles and amphibians. So, without any further ado, let's roll the intro and let's get started. So just one quick thing before we get started, that being that all of the art and works used will all be in the description of the video. So the first thing to go over is what are reptiles. Now, by and large, reptiles are egg-laying vertebrates with scales or scutes covering their bodies. Which of the two those is dependent on the species of reptile. Now, in terms of what is missing in Magic the Gathering, those would be amphibians, caimans, and the Tuatara. I apologize if I mispronounced amphibian. So the first type of reptile to go over in Magic the Gathering are alligators. Now, for this and for crocodiles, I'm mainly going to go over what's different between the two of them. So alligators, unlike crocodiles, they normally only have their top row of teeth visible when their mouth is closed. They have a wider snout than crocodiles do, and they do not have salt glands that work. And there's a few other differences between the two, but those are the main ones. Crocodiles, on the other hand, unlike alligators, both rows of teeth are able to be visible when their mouth is closed. They have a narrower snout than alligators do, and they have salt glands that do indeed work. And again, there's a few other differences between the two. Next up are gharials. Now, gharials are a type of crocodilian that may eat mainly fish. They have a very narrow snout as well, with a very distinct tip at the end of it. There's been 2 gharials in Magic, one was in Alara and the other one was in original Ravnica. Next up are lizards. Now, lizards are an incredibly diverse group of animals, to the point where a few types of lizards are actually closer related to non-lizards than they are to other lizards. Like, a lizard might be more closely related to, like, a snake than they are to a different type of lizard. Just to show you how wide and diverse the group of lizards is in, well, real life. And yeah, the art here is from Aetherwind Basker in Kaladesh. I just thought the art was cool, so that's what I used here. Next up are snakes. Now, snakes are reptiles that don't have legs, similar to amphibians, but these are more distinct and well known than those are. They also have a unique internal body structure, and their organs are not next to each other, but they run down the snake in a line. Some types of snakes include vipers, mambas, and constrictors. 2 of those are venomous, and the last one is a constrictor. There's one other type of snake, but these are the ones that most people know about when you're talking. Like, there's like the egg-eating snakes, for an example, but those are 3 main types of snakes. The next reptile are tortoises. Now, tortoises, I believe, are just a slightly different classification of turtle, with the main differences being that tortoises live on land. They do have a shell, like turtles do, so that's a commonality between the two. And they have a slightly different build when compared to turtles, just slightly different body structure when you compare them to turtles, especially if it's a sea turtle. Speaking of turtles! Turtles live mostly near or in the water. Again, there's a few exceptions, but tortoises live exclusively on land, and turtles mostly live in the water, so that would be a main difference there. Turtles have a shell similar to tortoises, and they have a slightly different build when compared to tortoises, most notably, as you can see here in this art from Thriving Turtle, that it has a flipper instead of legs, and I apologize if you can hear my chair at all during this video. Then, as we have concluded reptiles, we move on to amphibians. So what are amphibians? Well, most amphibians start out in the water and then move on to the land, but again, there are a few exceptions to this rule. They can also use their skin for respiratory functions, and the missing type are caecilians. So, our first type of amphibian is a frog. Now, frogs start off as tadpoles in the water in most cases. I believe there's a few that do not start out in the water. And they have a long tongue for catching prey most of the time. Again, there's a few exceptions to this, but by and large, that is what a frog is in the real world as well as in Magic the Gathering. Next up are newts. Now, newts are just a semi-aquatic type of salamander. So, the salamander type being used for the 1 or 2 newt cards in Magic the Gathering actually makes sense, because they are just a type of salamander. Similar to how alligators, gharials, and crocodiles are all crocodilians, and turtles and tortoises are all turtles. So, I understand that a bit more with them all being under one type than a few others, mainly in the mammal video when we get to that. But, and the name is similar enough to what the official classification would be, that I understand why they didn't just name it what that classification is. In the case of newts, it's literally just they are a type of salamander. So there's no need to have a separate newt type, as they are just a type of salamander. And with like alligators and crocodiles, well, there's only one alligator in Magic. Most of them are all crocodiles, but they are called crocodilians, so it makes sense to just call them crocodiles. So I just thought I'd bring that up when I was talking about newts, as that's where it would mainly come up, and this is also a shorter section due to the fact that most of the information is also under the next section, that being salamanders. Now, salamanders are an amphibian that look like a lizard, but they are not a lizard because they are an amphibian and not a reptile. Yes. They can also regrow parts of their bodies, which is, cool. I think a few other types of lizard also can do that. And I thought I'd bring this up while talking about salamanders. I have a deck tech on a salamander tribal Gormoldrak deck list on my channel, and I'll link it in the description of the video. Now, there has been a few changes to that list since I posted the video with new sets and me just changing my mind on a few cards, but by and large, that's still what the deck list is. I might do an update video at some point down the line saying what I've changed to the list, but by and large, it's what the list is. And I thought that I'd bring that up while I'm talking about salamanders, as this is the only tribe I believe that I've actually done a video on my channel with a deck tech that I've covered then afterwards in my taxonomy series. So I thought I'd bring that up. And the final type of amphibian, as well as the final type of animal we're covering in this video, are toads. Now, toads are just a type of frog. There's not a whole lot of scientific reason for the difference, except for one specific, I believe it's either a family or a genus, that is an actual toad. There's been other times when it's not there, but we still call it a toad just due to appearance and other stuff like that. Now, they're most often called as such due to having bumpy skin. It would be the most common thing that people would call something a toad over a frog. And their skin is also drier than most other frogs. So there's a few other differences, but those are, again, the main ones that we see. Again, similar to newt and salamander, toads in Magic are just listed under frog, which, again, makes sense, as toads are just a type of frog. So, again, it does make sense for that, and that has actually come up a lot in this video. Normally, I'd like the different animals to be more specific, or have a slightly different name to cover what they're actually covering, but in this video, generally, they've actually been following what the science and such says, so that actually makes sense and is actually kind of cool. I don't know if this was intentional or not, but it's neat that it still happened that way. So that is the conclusion of my 5th part of my Taxonomy of Magic the Gathering series, going over reptiles and amphibians. So, if you enjoyed the video, please leave a like and subscribe, and I will see you all next time. Bye!